again, everybody. Welcome to Calimesa Insider Podcast. I am Will Coble, City Manager for the City of Calimesa. If you are a first-time listener and you were brought here because of the Cherry Valley Boulevard update, you've come to the right place. We're going to talk about that today on today's episode. So I'm hoping to see a spike in our numbers on the podcast as a result of that post and the subsequent messages. If people are out there, voicing their opinion on it, bashing me, calling me names. Well, maybe not calling me names. There wasn't too much of that, thankfully, but there was a lot of you don't care, you're full of BS, this is political spin, all that stuff, right? Even though I'm not a politician, that's probably one of the things that we got to base it on. But if you're here to listen for that, you're in the right place, and I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But first, I do want to talk about the current election results in Calimesa. So obviously we had our election this past Tuesday. I'm sitting here recording on Friday, November 8th at a little after 10 a.m. in the morning. And so I wanted to look at just kind of a snapshot in time where we are. So right now, the Registrar of Voters is updating the vote tallies on a daily basis, and they're posting those at usually around 6 o'clock. They've been a little bit earlier than that, but they are posting it no later than 6 p.m. each day. So as of right now, this is where we are with our current election. Sitting in first place with, and remember, these are for 3, so you could vote for up to 3. And so the top 3 vote getters will get a seat on the council. So the seats that were up were the seats of Mayor Bill Davis, Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Hewitt, and Councilwoman Linda Molina. So as of right now, Eric Cundiff is a pretty sizable lead in the race. He's in first place with 2,019 votes. In second place is Linda Molina with 1,696 votes. And in third, Wendy Hewitt with 1,278 votes. Not far behind Wendy is Edgar Garcia, who is at 1,239 votes. There's a 39 vote gap between Wendy Hewitt and Edgar Garcia. And Mayor Bill Davis has just under 1,100 votes at 1,092. So one of the interesting things that I was trying to figure out is, okay, how many votes do we think are still left in our election, right? Because every city has different turnouts. And for example, I think Beaumont had about an 85% turnout in 2020. City of Calimesa had about an 89% turnout. Now, obviously, with the large number of mail-in ballots and that being a new thing 4 years ago, and a lot has happened in 4 years, so it might remember that as much, but it took a long time to process the ballots we had. And so I wanted to see where we were at this same time last time. So 4 years ago, if I look at it from the results from yesterday, because again, that was yesterday as of 6 p.m., those results I just gave you. So it's 2 days after the election. So I went back and looked at 2 days after the 2020 election, and we were at about 39.37% of total votes cast. Now, that means the total number of ballots counted divided by the total number of possible voters. So that 39% ultimately grew to 89%. And I will tell you that the results that were as of that moment remained the same. And funny enough, Linda Molina and Wendy Hewitt were the 2 top vote getters in 2020, and only 12 votes separated the 2 of them. And as looking at this report, 2 days after the election, Linda Molina was ahead of Wendy Hewitt by 7 votes. So I think the distribution stayed very much the same. But again, there's still probably a lot of votes to count. I don't think we're going to reach the 89% we had 4 years ago, but I do certainly think that there was a bigger turnout than 50.95%, which is what we are at now. So keep an eye on that. You can go to the Registrar of Voters, the Riverside County Registrar of Voters at voteinfo.net, and then there's a link for the general election from November 5th. So check that out if you want to keep track of the results. And again, they're going to update the results daily at about 6 p.m. And I'll have all the races, not just Calimesa, all the cities, presidential election results from Riverside County. Obviously, As we know, that race has been decided nationwide, but obviously we're focusing in on the city of Calamasa. All right, so without further ado, let's get to what maybe a lot of you are here for, and that is the Cherry Valley Boulevard interchange. And if you're a regular listener to the podcast and you maybe don't subscribe to our Instagram page, you may not know what I'm talking about. So let me kind of set the table a little bit. So I'm started to post videos on our Instagram page, just quick, 1-2 minute updates on different things that are happening or things that I'm doing, just so that I can try to start engaging more with the public. And because contrary to some of the comments that were on this video that I'm about to talk about, I really do care about the community. And actually my reaction to some of these comments was anger, disappointment, frustration, not just with the comments, but maybe with myself a little bit. Maybe I could have said things a little bit more differently, explained it a little bit better, things like that. Those are things that I'm working on. Obviously I'm just starting to do this. So hopefully over time I get better at it and better explaining these things. It's not a long format like I have here on the podcast, where on the podcast I can really dive into an issue and kind of give you all facets of it and give greater context and detail. So first of all, I have talked about Cherry Valley Boulevard, the interchange itself, on the podcast. So if you want to have more of a background of where we are with the project, how long it's taken to process it, why it's taken so long, I talked about that in pretty good depth in episode 11. So if you're new to the podcast, haven't heard that I encourage you to check out episode 11. So I posted a video, and the reason I posted the video is I got a question from a council candidate actually about, hey, can we add a right turn lane from eastbound Cherry Valley Boulevard to eastbound Interstate 10? And that question really struck me because that's exactly a question I had while the traffic signals were being constructed. Hey, number one, it wasn't in the design, and I have to, this is going to sound like another excuse, I know, but I started with the city. I'm coming up with on my 2-year anniversary, November 29th, 2022 is when I started with November 29th, 2022 is when I started with the city. And this signal was already well underway with design. Design actually, I think, had been finalized. They were just trying to get the last permits wrapped up before they started constructing the traffic signal. So, I kind of came into it late. And once we started constructing it and we saw on the plans there were no right turn lanes, I'm like, what the heck? I mean, unfortunately, the city of Calamasa was kind of kept out of the process. We were kept in the dark, even though I know that interchange is in our city. But despite that, we were actually kept out of the design of this thing, because the signal was built because of conditions of approval for the shop-off warehouses up on Cherry Valley Boulevard that are not in the city. So that's another thing that people need to understand. Those warehouses are not in the city. They were not approved by the city. They were approved by the County of Riverside. And the County of Riverside, as a condition of approval, required them to put this traffic light in. So all the improvements that are there, the improvements in front of the warehouse, the traffic signals, those were 100% paid for by the developer of the warehouse. No tax money was used to build any of that. And so I'm going to address that in one of those comments. So rather than kind of explain this, I think first, because maybe, again, people haven't heard the clip from our Instagram page, I'm going to go ahead and play that. So at least now we're all on the same page as to what we're talking about here. So here's the clip from our Instagram page. Hey, Calamasa, Will Coble here, city manager for the city of Calamasa. We get a lot of questions about the Cherry Valley Boulevard interchange, so I'm here today to answer one of them. That is, why isn't there a right turn lane from Cherry Valley Boulevard eastbound onto eastbound I-10? As you can see, there is some room there, and people think we can just go ahead and restripe the lines and go ahead and just create a right turn lane there. There are a couple of issues at play here. Number one, this is a state facility, so the state of California, Caltrans, controls this intersection. Secondly,
the design did not call for a right turn lane. So while there is technically enough room for some passenger vehicles to make a right turn here outside of the main line, there is still not a sufficient width to support an actual lane. So you could remove that curb, but then that becomes even more involved. Having a substandard width of a lane creates a few problems, but the main problem here is that because the design did not call for a right turn lane, we can't just arbitrarily do one without doing a traffic study and doing proper engineering. If we do, and there's an accident at the interchange or at the intersection, then we would be not only found liable for that accident, even if it didn't cause the accident. If you modify an intersection without studying it, it could cause great liability for the city. And because it's not our facility, the state would probably end up suing the city, and our insurance wouldn't cover it because we did something that would be technically illegal. So while we would like to put a right turn lane here, we can work with Caltrans to do that. We cannot just unilaterally do it. So there's a lot more involved than just going and throwing some paint down on the ground.
So I hope that explains why we don't have a turn lane here at Cherry Valley Boulevard. But in the future, we're working on this interchange. We've been working on this interchange since 2018, and we're hoping to have much better improvements than just simply a traffic light and some an additional lane. So be on the lookout for that. Understand that the city is working on it, and I'll talk to you next time. So there you go. There's the clip. And so this garnered quite a bit of attention. Admittedly, I probably miscalculated a little bit about the visceral reaction I would get. This is a very touchy subject with our public, with good reason. This interchange has always been a problem. Even before the light was there, we were hoping that the light would help a little bit, and I think it has a little bit, but it's been probably marginal at best. And then further complicating things, it seems like there's some timing issues that happen from time to time with that traffic light. So we have to work through the Caltrans maintenance at District 8. So Caltrans has different districts around the state. And so when you work on these things, you work with the district that you're in. So District 8 covers all of Riverside and San Bernardino counties. It's the largest district by area in the state. And so reading through some of the comments, this is one of the things that frustrates me as a city manager is, and this is something that I hear a lot. It's so easy a caveman could do it, right? Everyone thinks that this is just such an easy job and that we can just go ahead and, get everything done here on this work. So, but the thing about it is, there's a lot more involved. And, you wouldn't go to your, if you take your car to the shop and you don't know anything about your car, you're not going to go into the mechanics bay when the mechanic is working on the car and actually, make a, comment to him about what he's doing or what he should be doing and why is it so hard for you? I don't understand. When maybe you don't even, I don't know how to work on my car, so I certainly wouldn't be doing that. And it seems like a lot of people, though, want to do that with us. So looking at some of these comments, here's one that stood out to me. Sounds like a bunch of political BS to me. Excuses. Do the traffic study, work with Caltrans. Like people's everyday lives are burdened by this absolute dog S of a traffic design. Why does California have to make everything so difficult? Just get it done. And someone goes, because no corporate developer is paying big money to make it happen, but look what they did for the road in front of the warehouse. They don't care about the people. They seem to care about what corporations and developers want. They'll move mountains for a warehouse, but a small little traffic lane is beyond them. We all know the truth. Wow, Willie Ray, no, you don't. I can't even begin to tell you how incorrect you are there. First of all, who's they? Who's they? Is it the county? Is it the city? And actually, it's C, none of the above. Actually, the developer built all that infrastructure. When a project like that gets built, the developer builds all of the infrastructure. The cities don't pay anything. We inspect it, and they pay for our inspections. They pay for everything. Those improvements don't cost the taxpayers anything. The traffic light did not cost the taxpayers anything. They built it. We did not. So It's not that we don't care about the people. It's they built it. So did you think we had deep pockets to put all those improvements in? I mean, like, this is where people have this thought. And, people are saying, do the traffic study. I'll be on the lookout for an update in 5 years. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, this is a frustrating thing of working with this kind of stuff because it does take a long time, and we are frustrated with it too. If it were up to us, the interchange would have been completely improved already and done years ago. Beaumont had a bunch of development, but they always said, well, this traffic, this interchange was impacted before any houses were built in Calamasa at all. And so a lot of the traffic is still coming from Beaumont because the majority of the homes that use this interchange are from Beaumont. There is some money coming from Beaumont because remember, there was a lot of bad things happening in Beaumont. Things have cleaned up there, but the impacts that Alan Kapanikis and his cronies had on this in this area are still being felt, and this is one of those areas that it's being felt. So this has been an issue for years, and it's going to get worse with more housing. And again, with all due respect, this doesn't make me feel any better about this intersection. We can't fix it, so stop complaining. That's not what we're saying. I'm saying this is what it'll take. But let me talk about that a little bit further. Here's another one. Why didn't the city plans call for it originally? Because they weren't our plans. If the city were involved with this, it would have been done. 100% would have been done. I completely agree. The problem was we weren't involved. They didn't involve us. They just did it, and they didn't allow us to be involved. It's not like people think cities are way more powerful than they actually are. We have to play by these frustrating rules too. It's a ridiculous process that we are subjected to, and I know it's people are like, oh, it's more excuses, but I can't, can you just go to your insurance company and say, you must insure me and I'm going to pay this amount and you have to cover me, period. End of story. We're going to do it. They can look at you and go, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's the same reaction we get when we try to get involved with these things. Sorry, it's not your facility, not your decision. They're paying for it. They get to make the calls. You don't. Sorry, bye. Bye, city. Don't care about what you have to say. That's how it works. And if you're saying, well, that needs to change, I'm 100% with you. I am 1,000% with you. That absolutely needs to change. We need to have more of a say, local control, and the state is continuing to take steps to take even more control away from cities and eroding what we can do for you. And we're beholden to the state. So I get it. I agree. It's frustrating, and people are frustrated and they're pissed about it. And I get it. And I get to be the messenger and take all the barbs, and the state, the developer, they get off scot-free because you guys get all to yell at me because I'm the one that's in front of you. I'm the one that has to take the bullets. And I'm not angry that you're angry. I'm angry that you're not asking the questions of me and actually just having a conversation rather than just telling me I'm full of crap. That's what I'm frustrated by. And that I don't care. People are saying that I don't care. I care too much. That's my problem, is I care too much. I internalize a lot of this stuff. This is one of the hardest parts of this job. And this is why transparency is such a hard thing. We're still human beings. I'm a human being. I've got feelings. I've got emotions. And when people do this kind of thing, it makes you think twice about, do I even want to say anything or just leave it alone? Do I even stir the hornet's nest by putting myself out there and giving information to the public? Do I do that, or do I just stand by and let it go? That's the question I always ask myself. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? But you know what? This is what I signed up for, right? But instead of sitting here and just being a keyboard warrior, why don't you actually do something about it? Reach out to me and let's have a conversation. Talked about this 2 episodes ago too. Instead of throwing out BS things online, being a keyboard warrior, because it's easy to say this is the new talking behind people's back. People are, I don't know why there's such a large number of mean people in this world and why they have to be jerks, but they can't say it to my face probably, because maybe I'll actually be able to explain something that maybe challenges what their held beliefs are, which is we're incompetent and we don't care. That's not the case here. So let's talk about the project, shall we? Okay. So again, the process that has to happen, here's the process, and we can do it. And maybe we will do it. But I'm gonna say, is it a good use of taxpayer dollars given the context of everything? All right, let's get into that. Just to give you context of how long this takes with Caltrans, it took us a year to get an encroachment permit to pave over the Sandalwood Drive Bridge. So if you've driven Sandalwood lately over I-10, you'll notice that the road has been paved recently. That was part of a project that was approved in May of 2023. We applied for the permit when that project was approved. And it didn't get done for over a year because we couldn't get our encroachment permit for Caltrans. They made us make changes. They kept going back and forth. They wanted us to add a bunch of things. When we're trying to actually improve their road, they don't have to we're paving their facility for them. We're not changing the traffic flow. We're not changing anything. All we're doing is putting blacktop down. We're not doing any intersection modifications. No traffic studies are needed. Nothing needs to be studied. We just go out there and pave. Took us a year. So you can imagine how long it would take to modify an interchange or modify an intersection. We've been working on the ultimate interchange since 2018, as I'm going to explain in a moment. The striping is easy. Everyone thinks, how hard is it to go out, put out lines on the fly? It's not. I could do that. I could have a crew out there and do it in an afternoon. Have it done. Close the road, close lanes to get it done, paint it, be gone. Done. Easy. The work is easy. Getting to that point is what's frustrating and difficult, and way more difficult than it should be. Okay? And it's an intersection modification, so you're changing the character, and you're physically changing how traffic flows in the intersection by shifting the lanes. So you may have to modify the traffic light. That's a whole process. Again, the whole reason we can't just go out there and just do it is because of liability. When I talk about liability, here's what I'm talking about. Here's an example. A city got a $15 million judgment against it because a yellow light, and again, the yellow light wasn't even the cause of the problem, wasn't even the cause of the accident, but because it didn't function exactly the way it was designed, the yellow light was 0.1, 1/10 of 1 second too short. And the city got a judgment and an accident at the intersection for $15 million. So you can imagine if we just go out and paint some lines on a road and an accident happens and they find out that we did that, bye-bye city, you're going to know more city. People want more services. We're going to go away. So you can go talk to the county because that would wipe us out because insurance won't cover that. So that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not like, oh, we have to cut a check for $500,000. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. We could do a lot with the $500,000. But that's not what it would be. It would be an 8-figure judgment against the city. So now, again, we could go through the process. I'd expect it to take a year to 18 months. Okay. Meanwhile, we're working on a interchange project that will it'll add in a new bridge, tear down the existing bridge. It'll be a diverging diamond interchange with additional capacity in all directions. It'll massively improve the capacity and the flow of traffic in that intersection. As a matter of fact, the reason that you see the Stater Brothers Shopping Center having all that right of way to the right is because when they built that, we required them to build that right of way because we knew eventually at some point the interchange is going to get improved, so you need to have the right-of-way to do that. You have to have the room to do that. So that was built with the future in mind. My God, we're actually doing some forward planning. We don't do that. Government never does that, right? Except in this situation, and a lot of others too, by the way. Because again, Cherry Valley Boulevard, those warehouses, guess what? They built that capacity. And if Beaumont develops the Exeter project across the street from there, they're going to build and expand Cherry Valley on the other side, on the eastbound side too. And the developer is going to pay for it because it's going to be a condition of approval. In order to get this project, you have to do this at your cost, at your expense. Okay? So We started the process of improving the interchange back in 2018 before a single home in Summerlin Ranch was built. There were no houses in Calamasa at the time that we started this. So we started it before anything was built. Okay? The first step was completed in 2020. The second step wasn't completed until 2024 because it takes that long to process things through Caltrans. And this is the worst part. That was fast. There are cities that are working on their project approval and environmental documents for 10 years. 10 years. According to Caltrans District 8, they have 743 active projects in the district. So this is one of them. This is one of 743 projects they have going on that are in various phases of improvement. Singleton Interchange, missing on and off ramps. That's also in process as well. So we're working on the design. We have funding for the design. About $25 million ultimately will come from development to pay for part of this, this interchange. The rest is going to come from a combination of federal and state grants. It's going to take a lot of lobbying because guess what? There are way more projects out there than money available. Now, there is a lot of money available because of infrastructure, improvement acts and highways and things like that. And I have a feeling with the new administration and our congressional delegation that, road projects will get priority. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to tap into some of those monies over the next couple of years. But it's going to take a lot of lobbying and marketing our project to the U.S. Department of Transportation, to Caltrans, to our Congress. And so as we progress through this, we will share opportunities for the public to make their voices heard. We want you to reach out to our state and federal representatives to say how much this is needed and talk about your struggles. And I want I want you to focus the comments that you're making on this interchange, and I want you to focus them to our state and federal representatives to give us the money to do this project. That's what's needed. They need to hear from their constituents to know how important and how vital this improvement is needed. So again, the question then is, do we spend the time and money? Because there will be a cost associated with this, and it'll be a year to 18-month process just to get approved. Again, once it's approved, I can get a crew out there and do the work. Easy. That's easy. But if we have a goal of starting construction on this ultimate improvements, is that a futile effort? Or because we have limited resources, do I have to shift resources away from getting the ultimate interchange done to get this right turn lane done and then push that on the future? Because it's not an and sometimes. It's an or sometimes, because I don't have a lot of staff to work on these things. So we have to pick a lane. And what lane do we want to pick? Do we want to pick something that's going to make improvements, but it's not a bigger picture thing. It's a Band-Aid to a bigger problem. We want to fix the bigger problem. And that's what we've been laser focused on. And we are pushing them, and we're pushing them to go as fast as we can, which is why we're in the step that we're in, because we have been pushy with Caltrans, and we're ahead of other projects that started before us because of that. We've actually pushed ahead of other projects that started before our project because we have been pushing them, and we have been trying to work with them to get our project moving forward. So just keep that in mind. So again, we can go through the study, we can go through the costs, we can go through all of the engineering that's needed. But is it short-sighted to do that when we have an ultimate goal of making much bigger improvements here? And so is it short, do we try to get a short-term gain at the expense of a long-term gain, or do we continue to struggle through? And again, I get it. It is a struggle. It sucks. That interchange sucks. I hate the fact that homes were built, thousands of homes were built, with no thought about improving this interchange because it wasn't in their city. They said, sorry, not our problem. It's your problem, Calamasa. We're bringing you this problem. You have to fix it. What the hell's that? Again, our relationship with Beaumont right now is better than it ever has been. And it has nothing to do with decisions of the current council there or the current city manager. The current city manager is a rock star. And she's frustrated by it too. And she feels bad that that was not made right back in the day. If she had been charged back in the day, I don't think we'd be talking about this right now. We'd be driving on a brand new interchange, to be honest with you. Alan Kapanikis and his cronies screwed us. If I'm being completely honest, and the guy's a convicted felon now, so I don't care if I'm saying that or not about him. He screwed us. Big time. Big time. And we're left holding the bag. And our residents are left holding the bag. And that's what pisses me off, is that this guy ran off with money that should have been probably used to fix this thing. And it's all gone. So with that, we're going to wrap up the show. If this is your first time listening, I don't usually get this angry. I'm not usually this passionate, but damn it, this has been frustrating. So if this is their first time hearing the podcast, I encourage you to check out our previous episodes and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. You can see all the platforms we're on by visiting calamasa.gov/podcast. The next city council meeting is Monday, November 18th at 6 p.m. at the Norton Young Love Senior Center. You can attend in person or watch on the city's YouTube page by going to calamasa.gov/YouTube, then clicking on the live tab. And this coming Monday, November 11th, City Hall will be closed for Veterans Day. And speaking of Veterans Day, the Yucaipa Calamasa Veterans Committee will be holding a Veterans Day ceremony at 11 a.m. at the Yucaipa Community Park. Our very own Calamasa Fire Chief Tim O'Connell, a veteran of the Marine Corps, will be the keynote address, will deliver the keynote address, and World War II veteran and former Yucaipa City Councilman Dick Riddell will receive special recognition at the event. This is the Calamasa Insider Podcast. I am Will Coble, and I will talk to you again next week. Have a great extended weekend.